go to film school. Bringing our good friend Joe Fortunato, film study professor, and he's going to go back to 1996 with us. Of course, the holiday next week, July 4th. We won't be on the air with you next Friday, so Joe's going to cover July 4th in his own special way today. Good morning, Mr. Fortunato. Why don't you take it from there?
Good morning, Ray. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, since we won't be spending 4th of July together next week, I thought I'd get us a little celebration in early, and we're going to celebrate by looking back at the blockbuster action film Independence Day from 1996, which was released July 3rd, 1996, just the day before the 4th of July. Directed by Roland Emmerich, written by Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich. It has a huge cast, including Will Smith, Bill Pullman, Jeff Goldblum, Mary McDonnell, Judd Hirsch, Randy Quaid, Harry Connick Jr., and several others that I'm probably not getting to. But it was nominated for 2 Oscars, sound and visual effects, not surprisingly. And not surprisingly, it won for visual effects. It had a budget that by today's standards looks pretty quaint, of $75 million for a blockbuster of that nature, special effects blockbuster to boot. And it ended up grossing worldwide $800 million. So it didn't quite get to $1 billion, but again, pretty big hit. In fact, it was the second highest grossing film of all time worldwide at the time, second only to Jurassic Park. Now, interestingly enough, 20th Century Fox first wanted to open the film on Memorial Day and change the name to Doomsday because they were afraid of all the other competition, the film competition on July 4th, and they stuck with their July 4th or July 3rd opening date, and we still get to retain the name Independence Day, but that almost didn't happen. The film, I talked about the cast, the film includes 6 Oscar nominees, again, pretty impressive. It was, according to Dean Devlin, the producer and co-writer, the U.S. military actually agreed to support the film by allowing the crew to film at military bases. However, after learning that Area 51 references were in the script, they said, nope, we're withdrawing our support. So the mysteries of and the secrecy of Area 51 was being maintained by the government at the time. This film, I talked about the visual effects. It actually holds the record for most miniature model work to appear in one film. And if you like practical effects like I do, and miniatures especially, this is for you. They estimate that because of the advances in digital technology since the film's release, CGI and stuff, most experts think that this record will probably stand forever because they just don't do miniatures nearly as much as they used to. So a bit of a lost art there. In fact, except for the biplane during the crop dusting scene, any airplane seen in the air in this film is either a model or a computer-generated effect. So kind of interesting if you're into that sort of thing. The famous president's speech in the film was done in the same hangar that once housed the Enola Gay, which, of course, dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima. Wow. Now, interestingly, the crowd was not scripted to start cheering, but Bill Pullman's delivery of the speech was so good that they just started applauding and cheering on their own, and the filmmakers left it in the movie. Now, Dean Devlin, the producer, wanted the alien invasion to be on a grand scale because he kind of really disliked how in so many movies, alien invasions always happened in a somewhat low-key manner, like landing in cornfields and things like that.
Well, my goodness, and that's interesting about the delivery by the president, Bill Pullman. And, of course, that's a scene that's been played over and over and over again, as you mentioned, with the cheering on. So the cast is huge. Maybe dive into the casting a little bit for us, Joe.
Yeah, well, the producers always envisioned that the role of Steve Hill, or that went to Will Smith, was going to be an African-American. And especially they wanted Will Smith after seeing his performance in 6 Degrees of Separation. But until then, Will Smith was pretty much known just for doing comedy series and his music, Fresh Prince and so on. And Emmerich later mentioned that decision to cast him met with some initial resistance and even a little racism from the studio executives. But they stood his ground, and of course, it launched Will Smith's movie career. Eddie Murphy was the immediate backup, and they thought he would kind of get the role because of his star power. The studios wanted a white actor to play the role and considered Tom Cruise, Keanu Reeves, Johnny Depp, and William Baldwin for that part. Now, the president was originally intended to be more of a Richard Nixon type character, and that was originally written for Kevin Spacey. But they didn't go with him, and sort of oddball casting. Matthew Perry was originally offered the role of Jimmy Wilder, but pulled out at the last minute, and that role went to Harry Connick Jr. So, some interesting casting there. I talked about some of the special effects. The White House exploding scene, which is also probably one of the most iconic images of the film, that was built to 1/12 scale. So it was a pretty big White House, and it was built really just to be blown up. 9 cameras filmed that explosion, and the scene appeared prominently in most of the teasers, trailers, and TV spots. And like I said, it's widely regarded as maybe the most iconic shot in the film. A lot of people, myself included, probably remember the Super Bowl ad that got us all excited about this movie, in January of that year. That advertising the advertising of the film cost $24 million. That single trailer at the Super Bowl cost $1.3 million in 1996. But it worked, because I do remember that ad and thinking, oh my gosh, we got to see this movie.
And a lot of people did go to the movie, as you mentioned, one of the top movies of 1996. And as a matter of fact, with my kids and the generations of my kids, they've all enjoyed Independence Day going back to 1996. Film study professor Joe Fortunato. Joe, anything else on this movie before we move? Because you and I are getting together in just a couple of weeks, and we're going to do a little film study with the movie that changed a lot of the ways that people went into the water.
Yeah, that's a good teaser. I'll get to that in just a second. One final thought. I just find this a little bit of a fun thing, and for people who are sort of interested in how movies get made and stuff. In the final scene in the desert, we see Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum walking to the camera, but they're not exactly. It appears that they're walking side by side, but they're not exactly together, because Will Smith is 6'1" and Jeff Goldblum is 6'4". So there's a pretty significant height difference. So Will Smith is actually walking a step or two closer than Goldblum, and that perspective appears that they're walking next to each other at the same height. So whether you want to call that vanity or whatever, it's kind of fun. But
I love that. I'll watch the movie differently now when that scene comes up. Okay, let's talk about the 12th, my friend.
Yeah, well, let's back up for just a second, because tomorrow, big day, I am going to be doing a lecture on the 50th anniversary of Jaws. This is going to be the history of the film. I'm going to have some clips and a lot of visuals, and we'll have a discussion. So if you're a Jaws fan and you can't get enough after the 50th anniversary weekend last weekend, you definitely want to come tomorrow. This is a free event, 11 a.m. at the Green Branch Library. This is not a screening. We'll get to that in just a second. But again, just sort of a lecture and discussion about the history of the film, a deeper dive than I normally get to do. So I'm really looking forward to sharing that. If you're a Jaws fan, you definitely need to come to this. And even if you're not, just to sort of see how films get made and some pop culture history. That's tomorrow, 11 a.m. at the Green Branch Library. And what you're alluding to, Ray, is us getting together. We haven't done it in about 6 months, so I'm excited to do a Fortunato Film School at Jilly's on July 12th. And that, of course, is going to be Jaws. So it's the summer of Jaws, and we're celebrating all summer. This is the screening. We do the screening of the film. This is sort of our, for those who've joined us before, this is our sort of normal Fortunato Film School screening. Those who haven't done it, come out. Ray and I will talk for a few minutes. Then we will screen the film together. I will do live commentary, pointing out some pretty cool stuff and film facts as we go. Then we'll have a discussion afterwards. So that is July 12th at Jilly's, downtown Akron. Doors open at 11 a.m. The film starts at 11:30. And both of these things, all the details on all of this, is available on my website, joefortunato.net. So a lot of Jaws coming up tomorrow, the lecture, In a couple of weeks, we'll be doing the film school screening, and we want to see everybody out there for both.
No doubt about it. And normally with our film schools at Jilly's, we kind of pack the house. Always look forward to seeing you down there. And a great host for us, Jill and company down there. And as Joe mentioned, the breakfast and everything. So make sure you get your tickets now by going to Joe's website. Joe, thanks, my friend. Hey, listen, we won't be on next Friday, so you have a good holiday, and we'll reconnect the following week, okay?
I look forward to it. Everybody have a safe and happy July 4th.
All right. There you go. Film study professor Joe Fortunato. He's the best. He joins us Friday mornings at this time here on 93.5, 1590 WAKR.